Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
Two p.m. Central African time. It's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Nedbank Business Watch. Really lovely to be in the driver's seat once again this week to host you on an important show as we look at the business developments happening around Eswatini. My name is Fiso Mumala, and I'm with Lungalele Makakula. How are you?
I'm good, Spisa. How are you this afternoon? Yeah, good afternoon to our viewers as well. Thank you for tuning in. This is the second week of Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in. Do watch us on our YouTube page at Eswatini TV. We are on DSTV as well, channel 286. Welcome.
Listen, we have big stories, exciting stories, and the big news story and an exciting news story. Eswatini takes center stage on the global financial platform. The 4 billion rand government of Eswatini bond listed on the JSE under the Protea bond segment has not only provided much needed capital for the nation, but has also earned the Central Bank of Eswatini international acclaim. Now, this groundbreaking listing has been shortlisted for several prestigious awards at the upcoming Global Banking and Markets Africa Awards 2025 to be held in Cape Town. We invite economist Sanele Sibia. He's going to share his educated insights on this remarkable achievement as we address questions around its impact on Eswatini's economic trajectory. That's one. Number two, we want to look at the confidence that it inspires in global investors, but also, more importantly, what it signals for the future of our financial markets going forward. Sanele Sibia joins us virtually in the very early minutes of this show. Don't go anywhere.
All right, good afternoon once again. Schools are opening next week, Tuesday, the 28th of January, and Nedbank Eswatini has a solution for parents who are in financial struggles. Nedbank Eswatini is also running a back-to-school promotion where parents are offered financial products and digital banking solutions to prepare them for the back-to-school expenses. Manzini Branch Manager Mpumelelo Motamai will join us later to tell us more about this promotion. Do stay tuned. The business community says the announcement by American President Donald Trump to withdraw foreign aid will hurt the local business industry. And in our news today, Business Eswatini's Vice President, Industrial Relations, Andrew Leroux, has explained how Eswatini will be affected. For now, let's go straight to our first story.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
The business community says the announcement by American President Donald Trump to withdraw foreign aid will hurt the local business industry. One of the leading stories today in our business news, Lulu, as we come back for our ad break, we just want to look at that particular story as we look into Business Eswatini's Vice President, Industrial Relations, chiming into this development, telling us what it means for our economic development as the Kingdom of Eswatini.
What we need to realize that if America has general or targeted tariff increases for countries that they import from, those countries are left with two choices. Either they're going to maintain their current industrial capacity and they're going to send those goods elsewhere, which means that there will be an oversupply of goods that will be coming into areas like Southern Africa which makes us even less competitive because there might be other countries that are now dumping surplus supplies. Or alternatively, the industrial bases of those exporters are going to shrink. And we're already seeing it where, for example, Chinese companies are radically reducing production in anticipation of the tariffs. And Southern Africa is a supplier of raw materials, technology. We are suppliers to those countries. And if they're not growing, it means we don't grow.
Yeah.
So it can have significant impact on us.
The Chief Executive Officer of Business Eswatini, Inathi Dlamini, has also shared his view.
We are worried about AGOA, African Growth Opportunity Act, which we enjoy now, which is a market access initiative to America. Are we still going to enjoy it when the policy now is America first? If you are bringing goods, they will ask you, what is America getting from you? If there is nothing, then you shut it up, because that's the policy now. It's all about quid pro quo. I give you this, what are you giving me back?
Tukoswa President Peggy Mamba says every sector of society will feel the impact if the United States of America withdraws foreign aid.
Now, when you look into the country, 70% of the budget of the Ministry of Health is funded by PEPFAR, is funded by these UN agencies. You know, they are conducting trainings, they are providing assistance in quite a number of things. Now, what it means is that that funding now is not going to happen if this goes ahead.
The business community says it is monitoring the situation closely. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
And what will come as good news for the business sector, the Eswatini Revenue Service is planning to introduce non-intrusive scanning of consignment at the borders. The Commissioner General of the Eswatini Revenue Service, Brightwell Nkambule, says this will further minimize the time spent at the border, enhancing trade, adding that different initiatives have been introduced to reduce the time release of goods, especially at the Ngwenya border. The service will host its annual commemoration of the International Customs Day this Friday.
The Eswatini Revenue Service will be hosting its annual commemoration of the International Customs Day. We asked the Commissioner General Brightwell Nkambule of initiatives that will make trade easier, especially on the country's border post at the Customs Department.
There's still a lot that we're planning to do in the coming year. Again, part of efficiency is just making sure that at the border, as far as possible, we implement non-intrusive methods of inspection, and that means avoiding as far as possible having to search the trucks at the border. So we are looking at buying technology that will allow us to scan whatever is inside the trucks without necessarily open. It's called non-intrusive scanning. So we're looking at implementing technology like that. What is key here is making sure that we only allow legitimate goods. So we intercept illicit goods from coming into the country. Also, it is to make our contribution in countering money laundering and illegal movements of money, across our borders. Under prosperity, we will be showcasing work that we do in supporting revenue collection in the country. That's one. Two, we'll be showcasing also our contribution in promoting entrepreneurship in the country, entrepreneurship and innovation. So the parts of these three themes that we want to highlight on the day is the efficiency and the prosperity. We want to emphasize that we are committed as ERS to introduce technology that will minimize the time that businesses spend at the border.
The Commissioner General says effective trade depends on a shorter time release at the border, hence they will make bold moves to simplify their processes at the Customs Department. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
All right, and that's it for our business news this afternoon. It's 9 minutes after 2. This is Nedbank Business Watch.
Yeah, let's go for a break. We come back with an interesting conversation around the development happening around the JSE as well as Eswatini and the Central Bank of Eswatini. Welcome back to the program. The Central Bank of Eswatini's 4 billion rand listing in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has been shortlisted for the Global Banking and Markets Africa Awards 2025. We're now joined by Sanelus B, our in-house economist. He joins us virtually to unpack what this means and the impact on the economy. Sanele, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the program. It's an interesting nomination, an exciting one, so to speak. We are also seeing on social media, we've also seen how, the governor and his team have reacted to this particular story, this listing. If you will talk to me about, what this recognition signifies for the Kingdom of Eswatini's standing in global financial markets.
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and a pleasant afternoon to the viewers. So what we've actually experienced in terms of this nomination is, a bit of faith in terms of the performance of the economy of Eswatini in the eyes of the global economy. Because when you look at one of the nominations, it speaks to issues of high yield debt still of the year. So what that means is, our bond is one of those bonds that are listed at least a level of triple B or triple B and below. And if you recall, just a few days, a couple of months ago, when we spoke about, remember that Moody's upgrade from a triple B to a triple B middle class type of thing. So that is actually what this is signifying. It's signifying the fact that we have a bond and a debt security that may likely increase with in terms of the yield, that may likely increase in terms of the yield of the coupon, with a more robust performance of the economy. So it does signal an economy that's going to actually perform better in the coming years. So that's what the nominees are looking into in terms of the prognosis of our economy. And then it also just states that Eswatini is diversifying its resource mobilization base and portfolio in terms of shifting from what one would call traditional funding models for countries and states into market-based and competitive funding models to ensure that we're able to drive growth in sub-Saharan Africa. And if you look at this, Mr. Ngumalo, we would know that there's only, I think, one or two countries across the globe that have actually listed a bond across the continent, that have actually listed a bond in terms through a stock exchange market. The last time I checked, it was Ivory Coast, but I'd have to check again. And then that's why now we're coming in for yet another nomination as that's an interesting debut in terms of the bond in the sub-Saharan region.
Let's look at what it means now for our infrastructure development, as well as, our economy, our broader economy in Eswatini. We are learning that, this bond issuance in its inaugural round under the Protea bond program raised 400 million rands. That's a lot of money. How would you assess the impact that it has around our infrastructure development as well as the broader economy?
So looking at news coming out of capital of Hospital Hill, there in Babane, what we're seeing is when we went into this bond and when we got this 400 million, it was purely to certain areas. And when you look into the medium-term budget review and quite a number of anecdotal reports coming through from the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini, you can see that there's been quite a huge movement in terms of settling government areas. So that means now that's money that's going back to businesses, and we do expect that money to be replanted into business and generate even more revenue for the country. So what we're seeing is that also unlocks yet another potential source of growth. So it's what we're seeing in terms of the economy based on what we've seen happening right now. And then in terms of our infrastructure development, Mr. Nxumalo, what this means is the government still has, they still have the leeway through the central bank, they still have the leeway to go back to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and instruct ABSA, who is the broker, to say, we need to raise now, say, 3.6 billion. And that is 3.6 billion that can be raised to finance this deficit that we will see. You remember with the SACCO receipts, we lost somewhat of some 2 billion this year compared to last year. So we could go to the JSE and ask to use that money. And the beautiful thing about it is it's a bond. We don't necessarily have to pay it now. We just pay those interests once in a while until then we get back to a situation of better, Mr. Nxumalo. But I'd have to just caution a bit on the sense that we still have this bond and it's already been sanctioned through parliament, and already we're seeing our GDP, our debt to GDP ratios on that level of 40%. And this, for me, in as much as it's a good thing, it's also something to worry about, because that's money the government of Eswatini can go and get at any time. And that would further push the issue of our debt to GDP ratio further up. Until and unless we now start seeing an increase in the GDP base, which would now increase the denominator such that we can take more debt without going over the limit, Mr. Nxumalo.
The head of financial markets at the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Melvin Com, has spoken on the importance of this nomination for Eswatini's financial reputation, so to speak. I want to understand from an economist's point of view how such milestones influence investor confidence, both locally as well as internationally.
Yeah. So there is quite a number of issues working around on this nomination. Number one, it's an issue of saying we were able to list the bond, and we are now getting nominated for it. So the hurdles and quite the steps one has to traverse in order to list a bond, there's quite a number of security checks. We need to look into going concerns, need to look into your liquidities, and quite a number of things. So in a way, when a country is being audited by the Exchange Commission to list a bond, there's quite a number of factors that are taken into consideration, including your ability to repay the bond. So the financial stability within a country also plays a critical role in whether the country will be able or not to repay this bond. So, going through that process and passing that process in itself, it's quite a rigorous process to get to listing the bond, and that speaks volumes in terms of the financial integrity within that country. So that is why this recognition doesn't only just talk of just the bond, but there's quite a huge process and a protracted process behind it. Remember when we wanted to list it, I think it was a couple of years ago, and then we're thinking of 2 billion, and then we had to now take more time because there was quite a lot being done in the background, and passing those background checks signals a very strong economy.
Yeah, perhaps before we cap it off with my final question to you, which is going to speak on to how we leverage this particular development for sustainable economic growth. Let's perhaps look at the awards themselves in terms of them speaking to innovation and groundbreaking deals. What aspects of the Protea bond issuance in particular set it apart from other contenders in categories like the debut SSA bond deal of the year and high yield debt deal of the year? What sets this one apart?
So I think mostly to look at it, Mr. Ngumalo, is the composition of the team that was required to actually come up with the bond. For example, we're being considered under that supranational bond because we had to get ABSA there, and we also have that agency bond because we had to get the central bank to float the bond instead of the government floating the bond herself, right? So there are all those issues that are coming into consideration. And now when you're looking into the best debut bond of the year, I mean, you're coming into the markets and you're a relatively new player and you are able to raise 400 million within a very short space of time. So that speaks to consumer confidence around your bond as well. So it's those things, because if we wanted more money through this bond, I'm pretty sure we could have easily raised it, right? And then it's also in terms of the groundbreaking deal, like I've already said earlier on, in terms of getting the deal set up in itself, that's quite a huge process. And, we've had to have ABSA work through the clock. We've had to have the central bank work through the clock and quite a number of other partners.
Yeah, 400 million and its inaugural round is quite a big deal. I agree with you fully there. I do want to cap this conversation off with something I know you're likely to elaborate more on. Just as Eswatini continues to engage with global financial markets, what steps would you recommend to ensure that such achievements of this magnitude, are leveraged for sustainable economic growth? That is what we are looking for.
Yeah, I think what we need to do firstly, Mr. Ngumalo, is to learn to manage debt. Like I've already stated, that we are now somewhat at a level where we're looking at that level of close to 40%. And we are actually right now praying for the fact that we should see some GDP growth that would then allow us a bit of wiggle room to come back into the debt market and try to get more money. So that's the very first one. And then secondly, I think what we need to do as a country is we need to be able to invest in areas that will make us money. For example, it's a good thing that we've got this money to clear areas, right? But remember, a bond has to be paid back at some point in time. And the most ideal thing is to get this bond to pay itself back. So when you are paying areas, then what you are essentially doing is you're giving money into business and you are breathing new life into business. So those are the type of investments that we need to focus on as a country, to say we are taking this money, but it's not going to go to any of our recurring expenditures, but let it go into what we need to do as a country to grow. And then we need to think sustainably as well. When we are taking this debt, we need to be able to invest in the youth that will pay it. So invest in the people that will eventually pay this bond. And when we're doing our infrastructure projects, we need to rationalize them and invest in infrastructure projects that will give us return when all is said and done, instead of investing in infrastructure programs that are not yielding much in terms of the returns. So we need to be able to do our cost benefit analysis in terms of where we are taking the money to, and we need to be able to say that we are investing in projects that have a positive net present value in terms of tax generation, because what this country needs is more taxes. We need to expand the revenue base. We need to diversify out of SACU, right? And then we also need to think about where we are putting the bond, because there are still quite a number of social issues that we need to deal with. We need to deal with the problem of unemployment. We need to deal with the problem of poverty. So we need to utilize government's expenditures to somehow propel us into positive direction regarding that front, Mr. Ngumalo. Thank you.
Mr. Spear, thank you for your time. You have spoken on a couple of salient points as you cap off your interview there, managing debt as well as enjoying the ripple effects there on our GDP growth, quite essential. Investing in areas that will make us money. You are also emphasizing that, particularly leveraging our demographic dividend in the youth that we have, that is brimming with innovation, but also net present value investment. We are also taking that, and we hope they will indeed utilize government resources as they should. Thank you so much for your insights. Let's go for a net break. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. In 2 weeks, actually less than 7 days, the 28th of January, next week, Tuesday, schools are reopening for the first term of the year 2025. And Nedbank Eswatini is running a back-to-school promotion. To tell us more about it, I'm joined by Mpumelelo Motsamai, who's the branch manager in Manzini. Mpumelelo, very good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Just before we get into the services and offers that Nedbank provides, just tell us about tips, financial tips that parents should follow, for the back-to-school expenses.
Afternoon, Lulu. It is important for parents to draw up a budget, tailoring down the expenses for the year, or maybe for the term to begin with, taking note of sales, taking note of back-to-school campaigns that are currently running in other shops, and also make sure to compare the prices so not to overrun your budget.
Yeah. So, a lot of parents get frustrated around this time of the year, and some tend to, lend or loan money from Shylock's, in relatives or any other person. What advice would you give parents, especially it's the start of the year? How do they manage their finances,
For us, Nedbank, the perfect tip that would give parents is to plan. Plan for your children's education, plan for the school expenses, open up savings accounts, open up investment accounts to cater for those needs.
Okay. Yeah. So speaking of the services that you're providing, back-to-school promotion, I assume Nedbank does have solutions. So what are some of the products that you offer as Nedbank Eswatini?
Okay, for now, for the back-to-school campaign, we have a loan, premier loan going up to 350,000 that parents can take up. We also have LIP loans where a customer or a parent can take up specifically for the children's school fees. We also have credit cards. We also have overdraft facilities. We also do open investment accounts for the parents. It can be in the name of the child, it can be in the name of the parent, just so that you plan ahead for the needs of the child.
All right, still on the loan, how long do I have to be with Nedbank for me to be eligible to apply for a loan?
It depends on where who your employer is. For government employees, we offer a 1-month turnaround time. So if you are salaried with Nedbank for 1 month, you can easily get a loan. But what is important is that we look at the trend of which your salary goes into the account. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be we need to make sure that you afford the loan. So it's important to see the salary coming through. After that, then you can be eligible to borrow.
Okay, so it's not everyone that gets that 350,000. It depends on your salary as well. You can get 100,000 in Malangeni.
Definitely.
Okay.
We look at your affordability. We look at your 33%. We are governed by the 33%. So in every borrowing that you do, we need to look at your average spend. We need to look at how much you spend on a day-to-day basis, and then count for your 33%, which is your affordability. We are not supposed to exceed the 33%.
All right. So there are clients of yours that have current running loans. Do they also are they eligible to apply for the back-to-school promotion loan?
Definitely.
Okay.
Once you can take up a loan last month. If your 33% still allows, then you can come back again today.
Oh, that's great, actually.
Yeah.
So what are some common challenges that families face, financial challenges that families face?
In terms of the back-to-school campaign, you may find that you need money for school fees, you need money for uniforms. We all know that our children often lose their school bags, their jerseys and everything. So it's important to have that emergency fund, save up for those things. So the challenges can be easily managed with just planning for those savings.
So how does the emergency fund work? How is it easily accessible?
Definitely. A perfect example would be the Just Save account. You open the Just Save account, you deposit anytime you want, and then when you want to withdraw that amount, you give us a 1-day notice. The notice can be done on the app, which is quite convenient for the customer. You can do it any time of the day. The following day, you have the funds and you can cater for the needs.
Okay, so let's talk about the loan, how are you going to be certain that, yes, I wanted to pay school fees for my child or children? What is required of me? What documents should I bring to Nedbank?
Okay, that one would be the LEAP loan. For the Premier loan, it's for every need that you may have. But for the LEAP loan, we need to see the child's acceptance letter. We need to see the fee structure that the school has given you, the quotation, and we pay directly to the school account for those funds.
Oh, that's great. So it's possible that I take a loan for 3 of my children.
Definitely, as long as your repayment is within the 33%. Yes.
Okay. So what advice would you give to parents that still want to pay their fees and have no time to go to the bank or during working hours?
We have the intelligent depositors. You can deposit at any time of the day. They run 24/7. We also have the app. We also have online banking. At the comfort of your home, in your office, wherever you may be, you can easily transfer to your child's school. It is important, though, to note that the referencing should be correct. Reference with your child's name, your child's surname, and the grade that are going into. You may find that you have 2 or 3 students in the same school, but you can deposit a lump sum and easily reference by each and every one of your children.
Okay. So with your digital solutions, with the banking app, the ATM depositing, do you still have long queues of people wanting to deposit their money inside the bank?
Yeah, currently we have quite long queues, but we would advise customers to use the digital solutions. It's going to be easier for them. We may find that a customer has cash now given to them maybe as a gift. They can easily just go into the ATM depositor machine to deposit those funds instead of going into the branch.
All right. So how can parents plan for future educational expenses beyond the current school year?
It is important that they open maybe investment account in the name of their children. You can open also the Just Save account, a fixed deposit maybe. Just deposit that 100 malangeni, 200 malangeni per month, knowing very well what's it next year you are set for the coming year.
For the year, all right.
Yeah.
You know, there are some parents, that go through very challenging financial situations, and then it happens that they can't pay, they default somehow. Nibasita kanjani lapho?
Those who default on their loans.
Their loans, repayment of their loans.
It is important to be upfront when you're having challenges. So we encourage our customers to come into the bank when you're faced with those challenging times. We can sit down, have a sit down and advise you on what to do, give you a solution. We offer quite flexible solutions for the client, but it is very important that they come to us to address or maybe to table out their frustrations so that we can help them as best as we can possibly.
Yeah, all right. So schools are opening next week, Tuesday. Will govern schools. Do parents still have time? Is this a year-long promotion for the first time?
The loans run all year. Anytime you can come up to to take up that loan. We all know that some parents have stokvel savings right now, but if you have a need to top up, you can come through any time of the year to take up that 350,000, to take up that LEAP loan, to do a credit card, any of the products you can come.
Yeah, speaking of the credit card, how does it help? How can parents, use it, utilize it? How does it help them, pay their children's school fees?
The credit card works similar to the debit card. You are given a limit which you can use up, so you can still use that to pay for your children's school fees.
Okay, just remind us again what documents are needed, for applying for the loan.
It is important to bring your payslip first and foremost so that we can calculate your affordability. Your ID, of course, so that we can easily identify you. Your letter from the employer is also important, where we can see that indeed you are employed at the place of employment, and then that your employer will continue to run your salary through Nedbank.
Okay, so how long does it take for me to receive the money? Yeah, let's say I just come into the bank today, I apply. How long does it take for the money to be deposited in my account?
It can be the same day,
Okay.
depending on when you come through during the day. But we pride ourselves with our turnaround times.
Okay, so is it possible that when I receive the money, I give the bank an instruction to send some of the money to the school's account?
Definitely.
Okay.
We can do any transfer. Once the money hits your account, we can do transfers on your behalf. You can also do transfers at the comfort of your home.
All right. So lastly, your contact details, in case people want to ask more questions.
Okay, you can reach us at helpdesk@nedbank.co.za. You can also call 3278-1999, which is also the help desk line. There they can direct you to any nearest branch where you can get assistance.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, you got it right. Nedbank Back to School promotion is running for the whole year, so parents who are desperately in need of funds to pay for their children's school fees can go to any Nedbank branch for more details. Let's go for an ad break. We'll return shortly. Welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. We continue with our program. Business Eswatini has signed a memorandum of understanding with Tukoswa. According to Business Eswatini, this partnership will lay the foundation for a stronger, more collaborative relationship between private sector and employers and trade unions in Eswatini. Business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla sits down with Tukoswa President Bheki Mamba to fully understand the contents of the agreement.
Mr. Mamba, welcome to Nedbank Business Watch. Today we saw you signing a memorandum of understanding with Business Eswatini. We just want to understand the parameters of this memorandum.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, one would want to thank Business Eswatini and appreciate the journey that we have traveled together with Business Eswatini to the time where today we are signing this memorandum of understanding. Now, with this memorandum of understanding, we are trying to partner together with Business Eswatini now to drive a lot of agenda issues. Now, those issues include to say, how do we create employment in the country? We've got to engage and discuss with Business Eswatini. It includes to say, how do we grow our economy in the country? It talks to issues of saying, how do we improve social services in the country? You will appreciate that businesses, in most instances, they are looking into issues of how do they make more profits. But us, we are more concerned, about the livelihoods of individuals and as a federation. So that is why we are saying we need to partner them with business so that we introduce this agenda to business to say, while they will be looking into issues of making profits, but at the same time, these profits must talk to how do we create employment, how do we provide social services, how do we improve health services in the country, how do we improve education services in the country. So that is very important for us, for business, to also infuse that in their agenda. So that is why we are having this engagement with Business Eswatini. Yeah.
You are saying the partnership between Business Eswatini and Tukoswa is very important. I just want to understand how you will make sure that workers in the private sector are not underpaid. Lesikuvile njena kwekuthi labo labasebenza etitolo nalabo labasebenta lapho kuma farms khona ukhanza ukuthi abaholelwa imali lebonakalako. Most of these companies stick to the gazetted amount. How are you going to ensure that they are not even on the contracts, the short-term contracts like 3 months as we have gathered from different sectors?
We are seeing in the space of business where there is serious abuse of workers and the serious abuse of the law that protect workers. And that is why we hope now this platform is going to create space for us to engage and discuss the issues of contractual employment and discuss these issues where at some point you don't even know who your employer is. So that is why we've said no, it can't be an issue. It can't be an issue where we will engage with government alone. We need to bring all stakeholders for discussion. That is why we are saying even business is very important in this discussion. So we've got to bring business for discussing these issues.
Tokoswa is known, Mr. Mamba, for advocating for workers' rights. Won't this partnership that you have forged now with Business Eswatini compromise you as you are doing negotiations?
Yes, our memorandum of understanding with Business Eswatini, it doesn't, in a sense, remove our autonomy as organizations. And we are going to continue to remain, an autonomous organization as the Federation, but at the same time be able to influence discussions with stakeholders like Business Eswatini that will improve, in our view, the state of living for every individual in the country. Because you need to appreciate that you can't talk to the economy and then leave some other stakeholders outside of the discussion. So that is why we are saying we need to pull some of the stakeholders like Business Eswatini for us to dialogue, around these issues. So we don't feel that it's going to compromise, our position. Our position is very clear. As workers, we want to improve the status of workers in the country and engage with the business, because even at shop floor level, we are engaging with business, and Business Eswatini, the country is employing more workers than any other employer in the country, and that is why it's very important for us to engage with them if we were to improve the state of workers in the country. The issues of minimum wage, we need to engage with that discussion and see how to improve.
What impact will this partnership have on the decent work agenda?
Yes, when we are talking decent country program, we are actually saying where a worker is employed, that work must be decent. Now, how does a work become decent? Now, that work must be decent in terms of even the level of pay that you are getting. That pay that you get must make you be able to live. That work must be decent in terms of your safety. We can't allow a situation where a lot of workers get injured in the line of duty. So we need to talk to the issues of safety around these employments that we are engaged in. So That is what decent work talks to. Decent work talks to say we need all of us to respect the structures of the law, so that employers are entitled to maternity leave. Employees are entitled to benefits that are provided in the law, because we are seeing a lot of employers who are not giving workers maternity leave, who are not paying workers overtime, who are doing a lot of things that are outside the law. And that is what is important for us to engage, because that is not decent work. We are seeing a lot of these jobs that are not changing the lives of workers and who are making them even more poor. And if you go into the retail, if you go into the factories, you will appreciate that those workers, they spend more than what they are paid at the end of the month. So that is what we need to address. We've got, a serious agenda that we need to engage and discuss with government employers. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, Mr. Mamba, having you on the show. We can't wait to see the fruits of this memorandum of understanding.
All right, that was Tukoswa President Bheki Mamba elaborating further on the MOU signed between Business Eswatini and Tukoswa. After the break, we're joined by Sandiswa for today's financial markets. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. We're now joined by Sandiswa Dlamini from Nedbank Eswatini for today's markets analysis. A very good afternoon, and of course, thank you for joining us today. President Donald Trump is making headlines since his inauguration on Monday, and markets are definitely reacting. What changes has he made that affect us the most as Eswatini?
Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon to your viewers at home. So, as you have rightfully said, Donald Trump took office on Monday during his inauguration, and the first thing he did, obviously, was to sign a lot of orders, executive orders, of which there were close to 200. And of those 200 executive orders, over 40 were reversing policies from the previous president, Joe Biden. And he also focused a lot on immigration. There was also a lot of focus on tariffs. But the biggest impact that is going to definitely shake the global markets, it's the tariffs. So these tariffs that he is imposing mainly to China, which is usually the prime target. But unfortunately this time, we are seeing Europe also being targeted. We are also seeing Canada and also Mexico. And this is not usual because we consider Europe and Canada the US closest allies. So that's have been a bit of a surprise. And so the dollar had reacted to the news of Donald Trump signing all these orders, and they have been digesting this news because it's a lot to unpack if you understand the scale of 200 executive orders. So just for context, in his previous term, he had only signed 220 orders in his whole term, and just yesterday, like on Monday, he signed close to 200 in one day. So these have been a big change, and there's a big impact in the markets. Business. Yes.
All right, still on Trump, I did report that he unveiled a $500 billion AI plan. Tell us more about that.
So pertaining the 500 billion, this is to target artificial intelligence infrastructure in the US. So he he announced that there will be a partnership between, there will be OpenAI involved, there'll also be Oracle involved, there'll also be SoftBank. So we have seen a big impact of these announcements on equities, whereby SoftBank increased their stock price by 10%. We've seen Oracle increase by 4%. We also saw rallies around tech companies, but unfortunately this wasn't the case for Apple because they have some issues in China whereby they are experiencing low sales. So the news for that negatively impacted Apple. But as for the other companies, they have seen quite increases. Just to also highlight a few, we also have Netflix, who increased by over 15%. That this increase was due to their market in terms of membership paid. It surpassed 300 million, and there is also these membership have been attributed mostly to Squid Game, which was released just recently. So that have seen an uptick on the memberships in Netflix. Okay. So we also have seen an increase in the stock price of United Airlines. Planes, and I think it's because of the accidents that have happened in the past. They have been facing challenges, and Boeing was also involved in a lot of submissions to the U.S. Congress. But United Airlines increased because they had a very good fourth quarter last year, of which they seen this led to positive outlook into 2025, which saw their stock increase by around 3%. So these have positively impacted the S&P 500. The FTSE also benefited, and the JSE All Share also increased, but not as much.
All right, so let's just take a look at currencies today and see how the Lila Engin is trading against the US dollar today.
In terms of currencies, the Lila Ngeni and the Rand have been appreciating steadily over the past couple of days. And in SA today, there was publication of the inflation data, of which we saw the inflation hitting 3%, coming from 2.9. But the expectation from the markets was that the inflation is going to go as high as 3.2%. So this have seen an appreciation of the Rand to 18.4652, and against the euro, it's at 19.3051. Against the GBP, it's at 22.8320. So then the inflation numbers, the expectation was that inflation is going to increase to 3.2. So in South African monetary policy, they target its inflation targeting. So they target inflation to be between 3% and 6%. But as we can see now, it's at the lower end, which means as long as inflation is low, the chances that interest rates are going to be cut increase. So there is an outlook that interest rates are going to be cut probably by 25 basis points in the next cycle, which is next week. So next week, the SARB is going to announce their decision on interest rates. Okay. And in Europe, Europe is also facing a lot of pressure. Unfortunately, these tariffs, since they are also targeting Europe, the euro have also seen a lot of pressure. That's why it's also not doing so well compared to the dollar. And this is the same case with GBP. Unfortunately, also in the UK, they are facing a lot of unemployment rate. At this point, they published their numbers that their unemployment rate have increased to 4.5% in December. And another issue they have, it pertains to their debt. So they have released their numbers that their debt to service is currently at 100 billion, which is quite high. And this raises concern of a death spiral, whereby now they have to take more debt in order to try to service this current debt. So their currency is also under pressure. Last week it was at just above 23, but it have receded to 22.8320, which is a big decline. Okay,
so moving on to commodities, you've been highlighting that inflation is low. So how is gold, Brent, crude oil reacting today?
Thank you for that question. Under normal circumstances, when inflation is low, usually investors move to equities and other investments because gold is always seen as a safe haven. Unfortunately, at this time, with President Trump getting into office and his policies that he have proposed, they are inflationary. So, which means because he's increased tariffs, which are going to make it harder for American business to import, because now they have to pay more to sort of get the goods into the United States. Now that will lead to inflation inside the US, which will definitely overflow, because we have seen Europe and other countries that proposing that they'll also retaliate, which means there will be tariffs also against US goods. But in this case, the odd thing is that the price of gold have increased, the demand for gold have increased, and this is coming from the fact that inflation is expected to increase, so people are already stocking up on gold. And in previous weeks, we've also seen that central banks are also in that pursuit of stocking up on gold. So these policies being inflationary means that the price of gold, the demand for gold have already increased, and even though inflation is still quite low.
Yeah, Trump is definitely shaking things up. So let's just quickly take a look at equities this afternoon, Sandy. So what's happening there?
Yes. So in terms of equities, as I've previously highlighted, the equities are all up. The S&P 500 is trading at 6,049.24. The FTSE is at 8,548, and the JSE All Share is at 84,845. These are all quite significant increases. And in terms of the FTSE index, they released their CPI data from last week, which indicated that their inflation is currently at 2.5%. These have led to an 81% chance of a 25 basis point cut next week. So the Bank of England is also announcing their interest rate decision next week. So there is a lot of pressure for them to cut interest rates. And for JSE, it has also increased, but not as significant as the S&P and the FTSE index. And this is because South African companies have an exposure to China. And at the moment, with the tariffs in place and the talks of tariffs, the tariff threat, this means that those companies, especially the Chinese companies, are currently not doing so well. So as much as there is an increase, it's just not as significant as the other equities.
All right. Thank you, Sandipsa, for your analysis. And that's it for our last segment of the program. It's 2 minutes before 3 o'clock. We quickly go for an ad break, and we come back and wrap up the show with Sfiso.
Exactly a minute before 3 p.m. Central African time. You have been kind by tuning into Eswatini TV and enjoying this program today. Thank you so much for staying with us. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon as well as your evening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.